Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Imperial Diecast. In this week's episode, I thought I'd be showing you again something very special, except this time in 1/43 scale. Now, what I have here in front of me is a very special box. As you can see, it's a Rolls Royce. It's a very fancy looking box. And inside, we're going to find a 1/43 scale Rolls Royce Ghost Series 1 by a company called IXO. But first, let's check out the box. So as you can see, in the front, it has this really fancy Rolls-Royce logo. And a little trim here to the left that runs on all sides of the box. Now down here you have the information. This is made by IXO Models. Got your Facebook link to their page. And over here, very interestingly, it actually says Rolls-Royce Phantom. I mean, that makes no sense, right? Because this is a Rolls-Royce Ghost. But it's interesting because I think they used the same box for both the Phantom and the Ghost, and they then just decided to not make a separate one. Price, as you can see, is $29.95, which is fairly affordable, actually, for a 1/43 scale car, because there are some really expensive 1/43 scale cars out there which cost like 50, 60, 80, even over 100. But by comparison, this one was actually pretty decent. So now let's unbox it. So here's the model inside the box. As you can see, it comes with a separate hard plastic case of its own. So let's get it out of the box. And there you go. Now just a quick look at the inside of this box. You can actually see that it is made out of a very nice velvety material, which is quite rare in boxes of 1/43 scale cars. So that gives the interior the extra protection that the car will need. Now, as you all know, Kyosho makes both the Rolls-Royce Phantom and the Rolls-Royce Ghost in 1/18 scale. While in real life, the Rolls-Royce Phantom is a lot more expensive than the Rolls-Royce Ghost, for some weird reason, the 1/18 Ghost is so much more expensive than the 1/18 Phantom. I mean, the Phantom itself is, I think, priced at around €250, and the Ghost is like 350. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to see if there are any alternatives, and I found this model by IXO in a very high quality for very cheap. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this review, just to show you that there are alternatives out there. Looking back at this car's history, 6 years after the launch of the Rolls-Royce Phantom VII, and just 1 year after the launch of the Phantom Coupe, at the 2009 Geneva Motor Show, this smaller, sportier, and less expensive alternative to the Phantom was first introduced as the 2000 EX concept, before being called the Ghost, and sales started in the same year. So this is the Series 1 Ghost, and it has been replaced 2014 onward by the Series 2. The Ghost is based on a heavily modified platform shared with the BMW 7 Series of the F01 generation. The company concedes that 20% of parts are common to both cars. Now this car comes in a wine red color, Rolls-Royce officially calls claret, but in this video it almost looks like it's black, isn't it? It's a very dark red color, even darker than burgundy. But when the light shines on it, it gets brighter. So it's kind of like a magical color, I guess. With that said, let's take a closer look at the car itself. As you can see, this model is mounted on an expensive-looking base, which has the Rolls-Royce Ghost and the company's logo as an emblem on one side of it. And I'm not going to remove it from its base because it comes with one of those weird triangular-shaped screws, and I need to find a special screwdriver for that. So I think I'm going to do this review with the car on its base. I hope you don't mind. So taking a look at the front of the car, you can see that one of the most impressive things about a Rolls-Royce is its gigantic front grille. And I think that IXO has executed this perfectly. I mean, even though we have here a 1/43 scale model, the front grille is not only perforated, but it is perfectly shaped as well. It's surrounded by chrome, and you can even see the Rolls-Royce branding on it. To both sides of the front grille we have the headlights and a small DRL strip. Both of these are executed perfectly as well. There are no pegs, and there's sufficient detail for it to resemble the headlights of the real car. And below that, we have a Dubai license plate, which makes perfect sense because if you look at the modern Rolls-Royce cars, I think you'll find the highest concentration of them on the Arabian Peninsula. But in terms of detail, it gets even better than that. Even though this is just a 1/43 scale car, let's take a look at that hood ornament. Now this is called the Spirit of Ecstasy. And even though it doesn't have that much detail, you can still see the two wings, or I guess you can say that this is the cloak of the Spirit of Ecstasy, executed pretty well. From the distance it looks like the real emblem. And down here we have a grille that is actually perforated. Isn't that just amazing? So all in all, a very convincing front. The hood itself has this beautiful dry brushed silver trim, which starts around the edges of the windshield and goes all the way down to the front grille. Of course, nothing opens on this 1/43 scale car, but I'd like to tell you a little bit about the engine of this Rolls-Royce Ghost. It's basically a 6.6-liter twin-turbo V12, doing 563 brake horsepower, and capable of 0 to 100 km per hour in 4.7 seconds. The top speed is electronically limited to 250 km per hour. I think these stats are pretty impressive for a car that has a curb weight of 2.5 tons. And now moving on to the car's side profile. You can see that this is the short wheelbase version of the car because the back doors aren't as big compared to the front ones. Regarding the doors, on the real car they're called coach doors, and they open like this, outward. Some people call them suicide doors, but I prefer the term coach doors. Now regarding the wheels, even though it's just a 1/43 scale model, IXO went the extra mile to put the Rolls-Royce logo on the center of the rims, which is a very important aspect of making this a convincing model. On the real Rolls-Royce, when these wheels roll, the Rolls-Royce logo does not. It stays stationary. Behind the wheel you can see that there's a brake disc and even a brake caliper. Up here we have the indicator. It's a separate piece, as you can see it's so shiny. And over here we have another Rolls-Royce logo. And below that we have a small white light, which is also a turn signal. Very nicely done. Moving to the center of the doors, you can see the door handles as a single piece, just like on the real car, made out of chrome. You can even see a key lock. And here's a look at the rear wheels. Again, very nicely done. And here's a look at the back of the car. And this is where you will notice the biggest problem with this 1/43 scale IXO model. And this is a problem that affects every single Rolls-Royce that IXO has ever made. And that is that the taillights are actually not supposed to be this color. They're supposed to be red, but the red paint has evaporated over the past 5 or 6 years that this model has been out. I mean, you can see the remnants of the red paint still on the interior. I have never seen this happen on a model of any other die-casting company. And IXO also makes other models where this also doesn't happen there. It's just their Rolls-Royces. They must have used some pigment or some paint that just was affected like this. And unfortunately, the damage is literally done on every single Rolls-Royce that they've released. So even if you were to buy a different one, if it's a Rolls-Royce and made by IXO, it's going to have this problem. This is why I would suggest that if you are really bothered by this, stay away from IXO Rolls-Royce cars. In 1/43 scale, there's also another company that makes Rolls-Royce cars, and that is TSM, or True Scale Miniatures. It's a little bit more expensive than this one. I think you can get their Ghost for like 55 or 60 euros, and it does not have this problem. Now, originally, I thought about painting the taillights myself, with a red paint. But then I decided I might ruin the chrome trim of the paint. And besides, in this dark red color, from a distance, these lights actually look good. I mean, they contrast the red well. If I'd made them like a normal shade of red, it wouldn't look that impressive. But let's return to the back of the car, because we still have some cool things here to see. You can see the chrome strip here on the trunk lid. It's got the Rolls Royce logo in the middle, license plate below. And what's also nice is that even in this scale, you can see the parking sensors, which IXO has made sure to include. And below those, we got a dual exhaust, chrome-tipped as well. Moving further up, we got defroster lines on the rear windshield. And over here you can see what is part of a 16-speaker audio system. No sunroofs on this car, but let's take a look at the interior, shall we? It comes in a bright shade, which makes things very visible. So here we are at the passenger side, and you can get a good look at the dash. And you can see that the dashboard itself is made out of a high-quality looking beech wood, I think. And you can see the veneer pattern. It's very nice. And slightly off-center, just like it's supposed to be on the real car, you have the analog clock. In the middle you have air vents, and the buttons below that. Now this car has an 8-speed automatic transmission and is rear-wheel drive. And that knob that you're looking at over there is actually something that, like other current Rolls-Royce models, the Ghost uses the parent company's BMW iDrive system. So with it, you can interact with the user interface, and that's just one indicator of the fact that BMW is the parent company of Rolls-Royce. And here's a look at the driver's side of the car. You can see that we have the speedometer there, and next to it is actually not the rev meter, but something that Rolls-Royce calls the power reserve. So instead of going upward as you press on the gas, it goes downward. And when you're idling, it's pretty much full and tells you that you have 100% power reserve. The steering wheel has the Rolls-Royce logo and a silver trim as well. So that's another great attention to detail there. And now if we look at the back of the car, you can see that we have TV screens on the headrests of the front passengers. And below them, we're supposed to have small foldable tablets, but they of course aren't this 1/43 scale model. Still, there's a lot of detail here. I mean, you can see the rear center console with the vents and some buttons below that. And here's a look at the seats themselves. Now these seats come with seat belts, belt buckles, and the latches. It almost looks like we have carpeting down there, but we don't. And here's my favorite part. I mean, you can see just how much detail every single one of these doors has. You've got silver door handles, more speakers to the left of it, door controls down there in black. So all in all, a very detailed and convincing interior. You even have this flap here, or this tray I should say, which opens up on the 1/18 scale Kyosho. But it's nice to see it at least modeled here on this 1/43 scale IXO as well. Alright guys, I hope you liked my review of the 1/43 scale Rolls-Royce Ghost by IXO. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This is Imperial Diecast, signing out.